Okay, so I've been using Serato Studio for the first time tonight, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed. Here's what I've been working on.
No one ever said that life was fair, and I'm not saying that it should be. Even though that you are what you want to be, and I'm not coming no surprise. But don't expect me to be happy for you. I don't strive to get towards you to work out to reach you. I know what you're saying. I hate your
So, yeah, I'm doing a remix of this song by Alesana, which is this metal band, and maybe I'm the first one ever to remix Alesana and Serato products. But here's the song. So immediately just something super cool is that they build in stem splitting into the DAW, basically, because this is a DAW. So basically, yeah, it's this kind of metal song, rock song that I like a lot, and I like doing remixes. And usually I'm using Ableton Live for this, and it's good, and I can usually get stuff done, but there's a lot of pain points in the process that I've just learned to deal with. And one of these things is stemming out and extracting out just the vocals or just the melody. Ableton doesn't even have this, and so you need to use external tools to do that. And so it's immediately so cool that this is just built in directly into Serato Studio, and I can use these one, two. I can basically set these kind of markers in the file and assign them to a specific kind of slot here, and each slot has a key. So I can very easily hit the one key and kind of audition this slot. And it's so easy to just take away the drums, take away the bass, take away the melody, the guitar. That is incredible. I really like that. Well done to Serato. And so that's immediately one thing. So yeah, here's the song that I'm remixing. The general idea when I remix or flip samples, but this isn't exactly flipping the Alesana sample, because I'm not kind of chopping it up and triggering it. I'm taking larger sections of it and then adding stuff on top, which is a use case that Serato Studio really does well with, actually. So I can load in my audio track, and it's this whole big thing I can scrub around, which is really nice. And I can select sections that I want. And so I also selected this section at the beginning. I wasn't quite sure how to make it only this long, so I kind of hacked it by adding another marker at the end. Which corresponds to pad 4 or 5 now. Maybe I can actually just drag this over. So 3.
No one ever said that life was fair.
So I'm not really using that actually, but this is that intro, and that's basically all I'm using. It's this kind of high-powered section, and then this intro section. And once you have gone into the audio file and marked out the parts you want and assign them to a slot, you can then drag that slot into the arrangement. So I've dragged this pad 3 for that intro into this intro area, and then I've selected the more high energy section here. And so you kind of work with these slots and these blocks, which is actually pretty nice. So that's pretty cool. A few other things that are just really nice is it seems to do a great job with tempo matching and even warping, maybe. I'm not totally sure. It does get a little bit off. For example, right here, I'm just going to mute my drums and stuff. Actually, no, that was perfectly on. It was here. So this song is probably pretty challenging because it actually doesn't follow a consistent tempo and it goes all over the place actually. It's not really made for the grid, so probably not the best example. But Serato Studio still seems to handle this pretty well. But anyway, the tempo matching seems to be pretty good. But what I am really impressed with is that you can really easily transpose the entire project, as well as change the BPM without modifying the pitch. So changing the BPM without modifying the pitch is somewhat standard. Ableton has it too if you're warping all your clips. Changing the entire key of the project is not normal from what I've seen, and that is very impressive. So I'm going to go back to what I've done. So this is the original key of the song, D minor, but if I want to pitch everything down, I just hit this. So what it did there is it didn't only just pitch down the sample, but it pitched down all of the melodic elements that I've added, which are this 808 bass, and this piano. So if I go up, it automatically pitches everything and transposes all of the melodic elements in the song. That is very cool. I really like that. It's because in Ableton, it is very annoying to do this once you have gotten into producing. You might be in a certain key and you might be writing MIDI and stuff, and then if you want to change the key of the song, you need to go to like all audio clips that are kind of melodically oriented, pitch them down, then go to all MIDI clips that also are melodically oriented, and then drop the notes manually and make sure you, and there's no easy way to do this. It's very tedious and there's a high risk of error when you do this. And so that's why I'm very impressed with the ability to do this so easily. That said, one of the reasons Serato Studio probably has an easier time doing these features is because it is overall a much simpler piece of software as far as I can see. It's sort of like if you take Ableton Live and then take a really kind of smaller core part of it and remove some of the flexibility that you don't need and aim at very specific use cases, like for sample-based beat making and remixing like this. Serato Studio seems to be very kind of block and beat oriented and very grid oriented from what I've seen in my like hour of using this. And like, for example, I'm not even sure if I have these scenes here, and basically a scene is kind of just like a kind of a part of a beat. So this is like an intro. So I have some instruments. I have my drums, the 808, and the piano. Then I can have another scene where I do totally different things. This one's empty, US, because here's a scene 3. There's no piano. It's just a different pattern. And what's pretty cool is actually that I can treat these as blocks and drag these blocks into the arrangement. In Ableton, it's kind of different. In Ableton, everything is really just kind of present here in the arrangement. And if you want to take a section which is composed of a few tracks and stuff, you need to copy all those clips to another part of the arrangement, which can sometimes be an error-prone operation. You might forget a clip or stuff. It's very cool that here you can just drag this block over. And I guess the downside is that maybe that tends to make your music more repetitive since you're just reusing these blocks, but maybe there's a way to take a block and then make a copy, do some modifications, and then drag that in to make it not just repeat the exact same thing everywhere. But anyway, so it's a different kind of workflow, which I think is pretty cool, and is actually pretty convenient just to be able to like copy and move things and arrange quickly. I think that's the kind of a key point. It's about arranging with confidence, quickly dragging things around, which is much harder in Ableton. I think this is actually a bit closer to FL Studio also. FL Studio also is pretty good for arrangement in that you can have these patterns that are kind of basically like a scene here, and you can drag the pattern around as a unit. So that's some basics about the scenes and stuff like that. So I was very impressed about the pitching. The pitching is cool. Yeah, why not? Sounds good. And then you can also just change the tempo, drag that down. Yeah, that's very cool that you can just kind of play with it and don't have to commit to these key decisions or tempo decisions so early, and can still change that later. Moving on, it supports automation, which I have used here in my intro. So I just have a basic filter coming. That's a basic filter automation, works pretty well. Another thing that I like a lot actually is that there is this kind of channel strip view. So I'm not very used to this because I mostly just use Ableton Live, which doesn't have this. I've also used FL Studio, which doesn't have this. I guess more like Logic, Pro Tools, they're kind of the things that have this. But I like that there's this, Serato comes from this DJ world and DJ background, and so that it kind of explains why there's this DJ style channel strip mixer. But they even have the DJ filter, which is like low pass on one side, high pass on the other, and I really miss that from Ableton. I like that effect a lot. And did we crash? Nope. Okay, maybe can I? So I'm in the mixer view. Maybe I need to exit that too. Oh, I guess the automation's on, that's why. So I'm just trying to go here, seek over here. Like, I love that effect. I think it's fun to play around with, and that is just great that it's so available. I I can do it on individual elements too, like just the song I'm remixing. This is interesting. So it's automated, so I can't control it. And this is an example of where Serato Studio is less sophisticated than Ableton in a way that actually kind of matters. So because there's automation, I just completely cannot change this live anymore. Whereas Ableton has this thing where even if you have automation, you can still change it and take over that parameter, and then you need to click this button to kind of bring it back and tell it to use the automation again. So that's another thing I like a lot about it too. I haven't explored this too much. You can add effects, I think, to drums in your drum rack, or maybe even the whole instruments. Honestly, I haven't explored that too much. Another thing that's really great that I loved immediately was that so first of all, it seems to know the key of the sample you're working with or the song you're remixing. Usually that's something I would need to find manually somehow. I usually play around with like a operator synth in Ableton and figure out the key, but Serato already has that analysis, and it uses that in ways that are really convenient. Like when I added the 808, it has this play and key thing that's automatically on, and so it automatically tunes the 808 into the key of the song. That's just a pain point I've learned to live with in Ableton, that you need to manually tune your 808s and melodic samples into the key of the song. But it just immediately does that for you, which is really cool. And so you can just immediately get going with just playing stuff. One thing I didn't find very user friendly was that it doesn't seem like you can. I'm just gonna go here. So I'm able to like play the sample. I'm gonna bring it back to the main key so it's easier to kind of hear. Bring it back up also. Yeah. So you can kind of jam along with it like that. But then if you want to actually record those like MIDI notes, so I just copied that scene temporarily, and then I kind of want to clear. So now I want to record these 808 notes. Ideally when the song is playing along with it, so I can kind of jam. But if I don't really know how to do that. If I click record MIDI. So when you do that, it plays the scene, but not the arrangement. So I did find that kind of annoying. I can't really hear the main thing I'm remixing while I'm trying to record these 808 notes. You can kind of get by it, but it's not that great. Now I'm trying to delete this scene. Okay. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say at this point. But I think overall I had a really good experience with Serato Studio. As someone that likes to make remixes and does sample based beats sometimes, I can see this being very useful. But I do also find it a bit oversimplistic, and if I were to try to really grow the song into what I typically do, which can get more complex, I can see myself running into limits here as the song grows from not just a beat but into a really full kind of thing. But but the experience so far has been really great, and this has been inspiring to use, and I am pretty impressed with a lot of these features, like the changing the key, changing the tempo, the automatic stemming, stemming support. The scene-based workflow is nice, and so is this workflow of chopping things into slots and then reusing those slots. So yeah, that's what I got to say about Serato Studio. Let me know if you have any questions or want me to try something else. Thanks.